Lisa looked up and nodded. Releasing her mother's hand, she took the mirror and held it in front of her face and gasped. The person who used to look back at her, the pretty blue-eyed girl with the oval face and long blonde hair, was gone. In her place was a stranger. For a long moment Lisa stared at the fading bruises on her hollow cheeks and lined forehead, the sunken eyes that looked like holes burned in a white sheet, her bluntly cropped hair. There were 2 lacerations on your scalp that we had to suture, Mahoney explained. Fortunately, there were no serious cuts on your face. You were lucky. It could have been much worse. Lisa lowered the mirror to her chest, looking at the ceiling through streaming eyes, tried to feel how lucky she was. I knew things were moving quickly, but the judge surprised even me. Hank Elliott seemed younger on the phone. Maybe he was not seeing that pasty, legal-eyed face of his when he spoke, wearing this "I can't believe I'm doing this" expression that made Reef want to puke, or punch him out. He looked out the window at the Barkers' backyard, the grass long since choked out by weeds and cinch bugs. He said nothing. So, Elliot continued, can you make it to the courthouse by 3 o'clock? Reef looked across the table at Carl. Oh, I got someone here who's just dying to take me. Carl glanced at him sharply, scowled. Smart ass, he said. Reef flipped him the finger. Phone call for you, Mrs. Morrison, the nurse said from the doorway. You can take it in the nurse's station. Lisa gripped her mother's hand, then thought of all the times her sister had lain in beds like this one, being strong for everyone. Now here she was, clinging to her mother like Velcro. She forced herself to let go. Thanks, Joyce, Diane said. She turned to Lisa. Must be Jack. She pointed to her purse. You can't use cell phones in the hospital. I'll be right back, honey. She patted her daughter's hand and hurried out of the room. Joyce, said Dr. Mahoney, I've adjusted the dosage of Lisa's pain medication. You'll see it on the chart. Yes, doctor, the nurse replied. She came around by the bed, checking instruments and recording notes on a chart. And she'll be moving to rehab tomorrow. Good for you, Lisa, said the nurse. I'll be sorry to see you go, though. We didn't have much chance to get to know each other. I'll check on you later this evening, Mahoney told Lisa. See you then, she said, then left. Lisa said nothing, gripped the handle of the mirror in her white-knuckled fist. So, the nurse said as she flipped through the chart, I've been meaning to ask you about your name. I've heard Lisa lots of times, but we don't get many Lisas here. Lisa swallowed audibly, forced back tears. She didn't think she could speak and was grateful the nurse pretended not to notice, busying herself with the chart. Is it a given name or short for something? The nurse asked brightly. Lisa swallowed again. Short for Elizabeth. The nurse turned to her. Is that right? I have a sister named Elizabeth. Everybody calls her Liz. Lisa said nothing for a long moment, and the nurse continued checking instruments and recording information. She hummed a bit as she worked, seemingly unaware of the continued silence. Finally, Lisa was able to force out the words. It's the name my sister called me. Really? The nurse asked without looking up. Did she hear it somewhere? Another pause, this one shorter than the last. When I was born, she couldn't say my name, called me Lizabeth, then just Lisa. That's sweet, the nurse said. I had quite a few names for my little sister when we were growing up, but fortunately for her, she grinned, none of them stuck. Despite the pain that ground its teeth along her left side, and even despite the horror she'd seen under the sheet and in the mirror, Lisa smiled. A wan, fleeting thing, but still a smile. Apparently encouraged by this reaction, the nurse was well into a humorous account of how she'd sabotaged her sister's first date when Lisa's mother returned. I have to go out for a while, Lisa, she said, her face ashen. Jack's on his way now to pick me up. Where? Lisa asked. The courthouse, she replied, her voice hard as ice chips. That was the Crown Attorney on the phone. The judge is sentencing the boy who put you here. I want to see his face when she throws the book at him.